Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Joining me today is Big Dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn to overcome adversity, break back versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Welcome, guys. We are either right at the beginning of the new year or in the new year, whenever you're listening to this right now. But we are super excited because this is the time everybody's like, time to figure it out, need to get going. If you really want to listen to an episode that's going to blow your shorts off, go back a full year ago. Yeah, 1 year. We've been doing this podcast for a long time now. And listen to the episode on goal setting for the new year. Every New Year's Day, and I mean every New Year's Day, I go to bed early, I wake up, and I take my giant whiteboard and I plot out my entire year. Do that for about 2.5 hours. Then I go to my computer, I type everything up, I print it up, put it right on my computer, and I track it month by month, personal and business. And it keeps me on track because it's there in front of my face. So I recommend doing the same. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show today's guest, Tim James. Tim, it is a pleasure to have you today.
Hey, my pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to share with your listeners. And I hear there's some transformation and redefining going on over there in your neck of the woods.
Always, man. We're always transforming and redefining life. That's the beauty of it. But we don't really want to hear about me. We hear about me for 3.5 years. So we want to hear about Tim. So Tim, tell me kind of how you got into the health space and what got you started with your company.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm literally on a farm. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, hunting and fishing. We had a big garden. I put myself through college cutting firewood, and I did all the beer drinking and tobacco chewing and all that stuff us rednecks do, and I let all that go. But played baseball at a high level for 30 years, so I was an athlete. And then I ended up at age 37 with wife and 2 kids and a house and a mortgage and kind of the standard deal, right? And I had this as a financial advisor, had 3 offices. I was getting ready to take over this guy's business. It was very successful. So I'd positioned myself very well financially, very excited about that. But the problem is that I couldn't walk. I couldn't even run around a track 1 lap anymore without just being exhausted. I started getting mental, like, sluggishness, fatigue. My energy had dropped. I gained 42 pounds of disease-causing fat. I started getting eczema on my left knee, which started cracking and bleeding and sticking to my pants at work. And then it finally spread to both of my elbows. So I'd be like doing a presentation, and a client would be like, Tim, your elbow's bleeding, because they'd see it through the white shirt, the financial advisor with the tie. We take our jacket off. And so I'm like, oh, God. So it was really bad because sometimes I'd have to come home and shower with my shirt on to take it off because it was so painful because it would be stuck to my deal. So then I switched over to dark shirts, black shirts. And then finally, all I can say was it was painful every day getting this blood stuff. Now in the summertime, it did get a little bit better, but in the wintertime, it was really, really, really bad for the eczema. And so that, that's not going well. Then I started getting heartburn, acid reflux, indigestion, and the doctors wanted me to go on Prilosec. So that sounded weird, like an alien. So I just decided to keep with the Tums and Rolaids, standard issue. It was working. So I'm like pounding Tums and Rolaids 24/7, my office, my car, my truck, wherever I was. And then it got worse. Then I started pooping blood. And so what happened was my poop would come out like hard rocks from the diet that I was eating, standard American diet. My gastrointestinal tract was shutting down. And so I'd have bright red blood from anal tears, but then I also had this dark red blood from my internal bleeding. And, and I was like, this wasn't fun. Like every time, twice, this went on for 2.5 years. And some of the medications that I was prescribed that I never took, like one of the side effects was rectal bleeding. So like, why would I do that? Why would I take something that's already my problem? So it didn't make sense to me. So I just never did it. I'm really happy I didn't now. Could have been worse. So that was going on. But the thing is when I'd have an urge to go, I started getting anxiety, Anthony, because like it's going to be painful. Like on a 1 to 10, it was like a 6 or a 7. And so I was like, oh no, I'd have to go through this process of ow, 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 ow. And then the blood. And I hope that goes away. And this went on for 2.5 years. And so finally, to cap off this whole mess, I'm on my wife was from Lima, Peru, and at the time, and so we had this big trip we planned, and we went to northern Peru to a place called Tumbes. It was right south of Ecuador. It was awesome, right on the beach,
Sounds
little
amazing.
private. We're talking remote, okay. And we're out in this deep sea fishing deal, and I'm getting sick, and the captain thought I had motion sickness, and so did her dad. I'm like, no, I hunt and fish. I've been the Oregon coast. I've been in Hawaii tuna fishing. I don't get sick. And oh no, he's got motion sickness. Well, we got back and I didn't get better. I started getting worse. Her dad was a medical doctor, and he ran one of the biggest clinics in Lima. So he's like checking me out, and he's like, "Oh, whew, we have to get you to the hospital. You need surgery." And I'm like, "What?" And so I'm freaked off. I'm bent over at a 90-degree angle, walking like some old man with a bad back. Like literally, I couldn't walk erect. And we hustled down to the nearest airport. Well, there's only one airport, and we missed the plane flight by like 20 minutes. So there's no plane flight again for like 12 or 24 hours. He's like, "We can't wait. You could die." And so we rented a van and drove 6 hours down the middle of the night. So her dad's like driving this van. I'm in the back seat in this big van. It was like a brand new van. It was like a big cargo van. And my wife's holding my head, and every bump was like somebody was stabbing me in the gut with an ice pick. It was so miserable. By the time I got there, my clothes were soaked. Even the paper money in my wallet was wet from how much I was suffering. I've had a lot of women comment that I know what childbirth feels like. So I still don't know, but it was not fun. It was the most miserable experience of my entire life. So we get in there. Finally, we're at this hospital. I'm like, oh, they're going to save me. Walk into this this examination room. They put me down, and it's like 1950s, dude. This is a third world country. Like, it's not great. And there's a whole bunch of, I'm in a hospital, in an examination room in the hospital, and there's a ton of bugs flying around my head in the lamp. And I look at the stuff and the equipment. It looks very worn and old, like from the 50s. And I'm like, this ain't good. All these different doctors come in, they diagnose me, I'll give me the same diagnosis. And then he's like, her dad doesn't want me to get operated on in this hospital. He wants me to be operated on his state of the art facility in Lima. So he talks to him, has him dope me up with all this stuff. I don't even know what it was, but all my pain was gone. I felt great. And he was on the phone booking the OR and getting the OR ready for me back in Lima. So taxi down to the airport, book the next commercial flight out, and off we go. And I was literally life flighted on a commercial airline, and nobody knew except me and my wife and her dad. And her dad sat right next to me, and he kept an eye on me the whole time. So we land in Lima, another taxi ride right to the hospital. They take me out, put me on a gurney, and I go right into surgery. And the doctors and the nurses and the Western medicine in that case, in emergency critical care, saved my life. They totally saved my life. I was pissed because I'd paid money into health insurance my whole life, never used it. Now when I did, I couldn't. But since I was the son-in-law of the guy who ran the clinic, basically, I bought. Actually, the owner of the clinic was one of the surgeons, and he operated on me. And then some other lady surgeon operated on me. I literally paid for it by I bought him a bottle of whiskey, and I bought the lady some flowers and a box of chocolates. That's what it cost me to get my deal done.
What did
So,
you get done?
well, I had an appendix removed, so they
Ah,
removed it right before it
okay.
burst. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, that's no big deal. Appendix, you don't need it. It's worthless organ." I'm like, "Yeah, why'd God put it there?" Okay, we have to start using common sense. It was there for a very. I could open up a whole Pandora's box on the appendix and how it used to be big like a boot.
I
And
know all about the appendix. My dad had it explode on him when he was 15.
yeah, but it regulates the microbiome in the gut. So anyway, so I go through this thing and I learned a couple lessons from that. Number one, I don't ever want to get surgery again. Thank God they were there; they saved my life. But number two, like my poor health doesn't affect just me; it affects everybody else around me because I ruined that vacation for her dad and my wife and me. And so my wife pushes me back into the United States in a wheelchair, and I tried, after that, I was kind of out of fear. I was like high protein, low protein, high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat. I tried, I mean, you name it. I was trying all these different things. I'd lose a little weight and I'd gain it back. I even tried juicing, but I was juicing a bunch of sugary stuff and I didn't lose weight. So the juicer ended up under the cupboard. I just wasn't doing it right. And so this went on, and then I had a buddy of mine at age 43, Charles, gets diagnosed with cancer. Now, I'd already lost my aunt to melanoma skin cancer. It's metastasized to her lungs. My mom took care of her. My grandma died of brain cancer. And I lost another buddy on my baseball team to stomach cancer. So my thing was, you get cancer, you die. That'd been my experience. Now my buddy Charles has got cancer, and he's like, "Hey, they don't really have anything for me at the hospital, so I'm gonna go to this like detox, clinic down in Florida called Hippocrates. Will you go with me to support me?" And I'm like, "I'm in." And I just wanted to help my buddy. I had no idea what I was signing up for. In fact, if he would have told me, I probably wouldn't have went, because it went. I was they had no meat there. Like, there was no meat. It was all plant based, right? And sprouts and juices and all this stuff. And I didn't really understand nutrition at all back then. I thought I did, because I was getting extra chicken with my chicken teriyaki bowls, and I thought that's what I needed for muscle. And like I said, I hunted and fished deer and elk and chuckers and pheasants, all that stuff. And so we get there, and on the plane flight, he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's no meat here." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "There's no meat, there's no dairy, there's no salt, there's no sugar, there's nothing cooked over 115 degrees, and no vinegar." And I'm like, I'm like, "Dude, you lost me at no meat." I'm like freaking out, but I'm thinking, Tim, your buddy's dying of cancer. Buck up. This place has been in business for 61 years. Obviously, they're not killing people. Use common sense. You'll be okay. You've eaten apples before, right? And you like that? Yeah, okay. I'm literally having this conversation with myself. So we go there. Day one, my acid reflux, Anthony, was gone. It's gone. I didn't need my Tums and Rolaids anymore. They put us on like purified water, wheatgrass shots, green juices made out of cucumber, celery, sunflower, and pea sprouts, and living foods: sprouted nuts, sprouted beans, sprouted seeds, sprouted grains, sunflower sprouts, radish sprouts, broccoli sprouts, red clover sprouts, all this sprouted stuff. And I had sprouts in my hoagies before. That was about it, and I liked them, but they took them away because that whole E. coli stuff. And I found out later that 4.5 times more E. coli is happening in eggs every year, but they don't shut down eggs. So I'm doing this deal, and then all of a sudden on day 3, I'm not feeling that great. And this doctor comes out, dude, and he's like ripped, and he was a bodybuilder, and his name was Dr. Scott Josephson. You guys can look him up. And he's fit. He turned 50 that day, and I was like, wow, this guy looks like he's 40, maybe. He looks amazing, and I'm 50 now, and so I'm like, wow, like this guy's is amazing. And he was, and the class was called Internal Awareness. And it was literally like a 2.5, 3 hour class. And what he was doing is he was educating us that the average person has 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon. It's disease-causing stuff, and that we need to get it out. And I'm like, all right, well, that sounds gross, and I really want to get it out, but how do you do it? And then he was purporting to us to do colon hydrotherapy or colonics. You heard of that?
No.
So I didn't either. So for the listeners, if you don't know what a colonic is or colon hydrotherapy, it's colon hydro water therapy. Colon water
It
therapy.
sounds
So
like you're shooting the water up your colon.
yeah, it's basically there's a
Yeah.
technician, they put a little tube in there, and water gently goes in and out for an hour, and you basically go to the bathroom for an hour, and it cleans out your colon. It's that simple. And I remember elbowing Charles and saying, "Hey, look, dude, I came here to help you with your cancer, but I am not doing that deal. It ain't happening. Okay, not happening." But by the guy knew that people like me were going to show up. Guys that had egos, that were in fear because it scared me. And so he showed us these virtual colonoscopies of 4 people, 3 that were unhealthy, and 1 had been on this lifestyle for a couple years. The first person was a 24-year-old female that had like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, like this thyroid issue. And she had thrush, which is a yeast infection. Now, when you go inside of a colon, you're thinking you're going to see brown stuff, right? Inside of her colon, it's all white and yellow. And it's like, whoa, that's not looking good. That's wrong. Then they went to the next guy that was a 65-year-old male, 64-year-old male with he had colon cancer and parasites. Inside of his colon, black as tar and little white worms crawling around. And the doctor spins around. He goes, "Hey, by the way, those of you that think this parasite deal is a third world affair, far from it. Over 50% of you over the next 3 weeks on this life transformation program are going to see parasites exiting out of your stools." And here's the thing. These are pinworms, hookworms, and tapeworms, the ones that we're used to seeing. Some stools will be white and fuzzy. Their stools will be almost white. They'll have so many parasites coming out. not just the big long ones. But he said besides those, there's smaller ones that live intercellularly, and all of them are drinking your drinks, eating your food, urinating and defecating inside of you, and then they're having sex and laying thousands of eggs. And now I'm thinking, well, maybe this colon hydrotherapy thing ain't too bad of a deal. So the next one was a 45-year-old female with breast cancer. Again, mostly black, like midnight tar inside of her and some brown stuff. And then they went to the healthy person. You could actually see in that virtual colonoscopy inside that healthy person's colon, the pink lining of the colon and brown stuff. It looked like it was supposed to look. And that's, Anthony, where the light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, this is an inside game. If I want to heal the outside, I need to heal my inside. And I can't tell you how much that has come to be true, not just with the health, but with the emotional traumas and stuff too that we deal with in the spiritual path. So I'm still not feeling that great because I'm on day 4 of this thing, and it's like I've got headaches, I've got night sweats, I'm very irritable. Basically, what they said is we're doing surgery without a knife, right? And so what was happening was I was changing the internal terrain of my body, and when you do that, like that's why these parasites were exiting. As an example, the next day at lunch, this gal had a parasite crawling out of her eye at the lunch table. And I was like, dude, I was like, you have a parasite crawling out your eye. And she's like, oh my God. And she runs off to the bathroom. I'm like, don't get it in your salad, you know? And so, but we saw a few other people had them like coming out of their pores. And when I tell these stories, some people are like, oh, that's BS. That didn't happen. I'm like, yeah, it did. I saw it. Now, why was it happening? Because we were on the standard American diet and we were in a stressed out, modern, polluted world. Our bodies have become very toxic. They've become very acid based and they've become low in oxygen. Perfect breeding ground for viruses, bacterium, mold, yeast, fungus, mutagens, these cancers and parasites. So when we went and we started drinking all this water and green juices and wheatgrass shots and sprout, we were pouring alkaline and oxygen into our body literally, and we were changing the internal terrain. So the parasites were packing their bags and leaving. Just like if you were to drop a penguin and a polar bear on Miami Beach, they're going to jump in the water and get the hell out of there because like it's too hot for them. They're going to go south or north and go back to their natural environment. That's why the parasites left the body. No different than if you were in New York and the garbage truck drivers strike and people start piling garbage up in the alleyway. Well, what happens? In comes the bugs and the rats. The garbage truck drivers come off strike. They clean up the garbage. The bugs and rats leave. It's just that simple. It's like it's like not cleaning out the garbage in your house, in your kitchen. Eventually, it's going to stink and bugs are going to come. That's just the way it is. It's the same thing in your freaking gut. And so I got it. And Charles and I, we were just on day 5. We woke up and we felt like we were 18 again. And I was like, dude, do you feel as good as I do? I literally have energy tingling in my arms. My mental clarity is back like I was 15 years old again. And I'm like, dude, you're going to heal. I know it. Like I've talked to all these people around here. You're going to heal a cancer. And I'm going to do this with you. We're going to go home. I'm going to give up all meat except for bacon. We're going to knock this thing out of the park. When we got home, we got really busy living. I started growing sprouts and juicing, doing all this stuff. And in 2.5 years, my friend healed himself of this uncurable cancer and was able to see his son graduate high school. He went and went to father-son weekend at Oregon State University, and his son graduated and became a real estate agent and sold Charles's house. So total awesome story. Charles roped me into doing a marathon in 2012. We finished that together, and it was probably one of the most epic things that I've ever done in my life. Tears, and I was really tired, and got that done. And for me, Anthony, within 60 days, I had dropped the 42 pounds, like just poof, gone. And the eczema on my elbows and was gone. And 8 months later, that big patch of eczema on my knee was gone. The acid reflux was gone. I got my ribs back. I went from extra larges and larges to, mediums and small shirts again. I feel amazing. And I've been on 24/7, 365 for 13 years, shouting from the rooftops that you are nature. Nature is the solution, and you can all heal. It doesn't matter what you got going on. It's possible if you have the right attitude and you get the right information and you get off your butt and take action. You can become your own doctor. You can learn how to self-heal. If a redneck from Eastern Oregon can do it, I know anybody else here listening can.
That's a great story. I was in
Thanks,
trance the
man.
whole time. I was just like, yeah, I get it. I love the name of the conference, Hypocrisies, by the way. That was subtle. It was really cool.
Yeah. So Hippocrates, a lot of people have heard him say something. He said that is a very famous quote: "Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food." That's one of his most famous quotes. But another one he said, "He who is not his own doctor is a fool. He who is not his own doctor is a fool." And I'm telling you what, you have got to take responsibility for your health. Stop outsourcing your health, your finances, your relationships to other people. That's what the top down approach. They I go, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. Just come on over here and you come in. Like even when I was a financial advisor, I had to learn a whole new language. Right? You go to a doctor and the doctor's like,
Can you
you have
repeat that one more time, please?
what's that?
That fitness and financial thing, because it's beautiful. You have to what?
Well, you can't outsource this stuff to other people.
Why?
Well, because what might they have planned for you? Like, you know what I'm saying? You gotta take responsibility for your own stuff. Even like when you go and you have a CPA put all your stuff together, you're signing your name to it. They're not responsible for what goes on. You are. So if you owe a bunch of taxes, you're like, "Hey, what'd you do?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." You know what I mean? You signed it. You are
So
once
how
people take
important is it
100%.
for people to learn those skills, and how related are both of them?
Well, well, if you don't, you're gonna pay the price. Look around. 80% of us are overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. Um, all diseases are on the rise. In fact, how bad is it? Our life expectancy now is dropping like a rock. So our children are now gonna die younger than us. So the systems are broken. They failed us. Financially, 72% of Americans have less than $400 in savings. Like, so the systems are broken. Our infrastructure is a D in this country. Our roads and our bridges and our highways are all crumbling. The buildings are crumbling. We're turning into a third world company. And we've done this because we've outsourced everything. I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was like, did you know if you go to in Colombia or Costa Rica, if you want to import something in, the tax is almost as much as the cost of the and the exchange ratio is like 4,000 to 1. So it's already way out of whack for those people down in Colombia. How could they even afford to buy an American product when the tax is as much as the product itself? That makes no sense. So why is it stuff can come in, but it can't go out? Because we've been outsourcing our usefulness. We're not creating anything. And that's how e-commerce or commerce is supposed to work. For you got to create something. You have to create some value. If you don't create value, there's no value there. So what's happening is this top-down approach where they're centralizing everything and big companies. I'll give you a perfect example. Whole Foods, great concept. Those people that started it got big, and then Amazon bought it. And what's happened is if you remember Whole Foods 10 years ago, lots of amazing products in there, lots, and you got to choose from. And then they had a little brand called Organic 365 brand. You remember that? That was their own brand. Now what they're doing is you'll see almost a lot of Organic 365 brand. Why? Because they control the shelves. So if you're going and it's a Super Bowl party and you're like, oh, I want to get some hummus, and you're looking at a really good hummus, like me and you had a hummus company and we put organic, non GMO chickpeas, and we put the best cold pressed oil in there, and we put the best spices, and we mix it all up, and we have our special sauce, and it's awesome. And it's $8.99 for that 8 ounces. And they look over to the right, and it's $6.99 for 16 ounces organic 365 brand with crap organic. You see crap food. And so, but you're like, I like my friends, but I don't like them that much. You buy the cheap stuff. Or they'll just kick you off the shelf and replace you. So what's happening is through centralization and top-down approach, consumers are getting crappier and crappier products. I just bought a whole bunch of doors for this new building. Dude, it hasn't even been a year and the doors are warping and they were made of crap. It's just crap. So that's what's happening. So we have to take 100% responsibility for our health, our finances, our relationships, our spiritual path, our hummus, and our doors. I mean, it's getting to that
I'm
point
gonna
now.
stop you there, Tim, because I love this. You went right into my ad, and I didn't have to pitch it at all. So now I'm only going to do 5 seconds of it. Learning your fitness and your financial goals and understanding how to take care of both of those is why Keith and I came together to create a company called F Squared Consulting, where we blend fitness and financial freedom because both are hand in hand together. So if you want to learn, take control, track everything, and be able to plan for your future, then please go check us out at fitbodiesfatwallets.com. Again, that's www.fitbodiesfatwallets.com. F Squared Consulting, Fitness and Financial Freedom. By the way, thank you for doing that. That was not planned. It was just shows the synchrony between both of them so beautifully,
awesome.
as you stated.
Perfect.
So I do love that. I want to ask some specific questions
Sure.
based upon the story you told a little earlier, just to get some general feedback from you. First one being, I mean, I know that the food that we're eating is utter crap. I don't think there's another word for it. You grab
Poison.
a box of,
It's
you
called
grab a
poison.
box of something and you're looking at the ingredients and you don't know what 95% of the shit is. That's end of the day excuse. And then the best you can do to help somebody and just to keep it simple, stupid response, as some people like to say, we tell them walk only the outside of the grocery store. Just do the outer aisles and avoid everything in the in between, because that's just straight poison. At least you'll be slightly better walking the outskirts of it. So what do you like, that general analogy, or is there something you have that might be able to help the masses a little more?
Well, I think that's a really good place to start for sure, because the bottom line is people have to understand what processed foods are doing to people, right? So what happened was, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this thing called 9/11. It was kind of a big deal, and like 2,977 people lost their lives, and everybody kind of remembers where they were at. Where were you at when that happened?
Sixth grade, they didn't tell us. They just shut the doors, kept teaching. I went to a friend's house because no one told us what was going on. The friend's mom told me to go home. I went home, walked up my stairs. My parents had the TV on, and I said, "Why is everyone acting so weird? I don't understand what's going on today." And they said, "Oh, sit down." And that's when I found it. They don't live on Long Island, so I know friends who lost loved ones. My
Yeah.
uncle was actually there. He was in the towers. He was an electrician, and he walked out to go get breakfast. And sitting in line at the bagel store, saw the first tower get hit.
Wow.
That's
Lucky.
He didn't tell people, by the way, for 10 years.
Oh,
No one knew. And he's like, "Oh
unbelievable.
yeah, I was there." I was like, "What the fuck? You were there?" And then my one of my best friend's dad was a firefighter, and he lived, but he has not the 9/11 cough. He still has it. It totally destroyed his insides. He didn't wear a mask. He just went there and just tried saving people's lives and
Mm.
did the best he
I,
could.
I'd love to help him. You should connect us if he's open. So here's
Yeah,
the
I'll
thing.
tell him.
You mentioned something about your parents said sit down, and I would like to resonate that message with your listeners right now. I want you to sit down and listen to me. And the message is that 2,977 people died from 9/11. It impacted all of us. His parents said sit down. I just said sit down, listen to this. Over 4,300 people a day in our country die from processed foods. Let me repeat that. 4,300 people a day are dying of processed foods in our country. We are paying for poison. We are walking into the grocery stores and buying this bullshit crap that is highly addictive, that is processed to the to it's so bad for people. It's why we're sick. The solution is nature. It's whole foods in their natural state. You know, and it's like if you take wheat as an example, and if you could get it so it's, not sprayed and not hybrid so much, you get the old heirloom stuff, not manufactured for, sprayed with glyphosate and all this stuff, and you can eat it, and it's good for you. But when you take even in that, and if you were to take a good one and grind it into a powder, it goes from like, I can't remember, I think it's like it goes from like 500 calories to like 1,500 calories or something like that when it goes into powder form. But that powder basically turns into sugar. It's just not good for the body. Anything that's highly processed flour, processed sugar, anything like this, even if it's a healthy grain, it's going to destroy your health. The oils today they're highly processed and heated, and those oils turn into what are called lipid peroxides. So those are cancer causers, by the way. Your shampoos, if your shampoo says sodium lauryl sulfate in it, that's a cancer causer. It's probably one of the main ingredients in your shampoos.
I don't shampoo.
Well, who knows? You might have a hairy chest. We don't know. You have to take that shirt off. So and then what if your toothpaste says harmful if swallowed? Please contact the Poison Control Center. Has anybody ever thought to just pause for a moment and think, well, if I eat too much of this, I have to call the Poison Control Center. So maybe it's poison. It could kill me. When I brush my teeth, aren't I poisoning myself a little bit every day? And it's this constant, nonstop Glade air freshener toothpaste that's poison, the sodium lauryl sulfates, the seed oils, the expeller pressed canola oil in your potato chips. That's also a lipid peroxide because the expeller presses cost a lot of heat and damage in these. It's like it all adds up, right? Your shirts, if you're not wearing organic cotton shirts like I am, or organic hemp or linen, those shirts, well, let's say this, maybe you are wearing cotton. Cotton is the second most sprayed crop in the world behind sugarcane, right? So if you're tidy whities and you're wearing these Hanes garments, they're not organic. Guess what? They're off-gassing these estrogen mimicking chemicals into your nutsack, and you're destroying your ability to procreate and have children, and it's going to lead to things like testicular cancer. Just by wearing, and then I got into, I don't know about you, but when I played baseball, we used to wear these big heavy cotton like shirts, and then in baseball they got all sweaty and you have to change them halfway through the game. Then they came out with Dry Fit, Nike Dry Fit. Dude, that shit's awesome. It's like you feel like a superhero wearing that stuff. But guess what? It's made of polyester. And after 1,000 washes, it's off-gassing 97% of these chemicals. And the umbilical cord studies back everything that I'm saying. Go type these 3 words into your browser when you're done listening to this podcast. Umbilical cord chemical. Umbilical cord chemical. Those 3 words, when I looked them up, I was shocked. They go back to 2005. Anthony, they look for 400 chemicals. They find 71% of what they're looking for, 250, and 180 of those cause cancer in humans, and 212 cause developmental and brain disorders. And it's like these are in our young babies and moms, the healthiest supposedly of all of us. And I was like, I sat back in my chair and I was like, oh my God, we are all polluted. We can't see it. It's microscopic. And so nobody, like, how do you identify it? You can't see it's killing you because it's too small, but it is. It's freaking killing you. And the older you are, the more time you've had to bioaccumulate these toxins from the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the shampoos that you put on your head, unless you're Anthony, he puts it on his chest hair. And then you got the harmful of poison toothpaste and the air fresheners and the blah 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 and all this stuff, and it all adds up to you're polluted, and it's destroying your health. And so that's how I started Chemical Free Body. I was like, I got to get this information. I got to start pointing out this white elephant in the room that nobody can see. It's these microscopic toxic chemicals. And that's number 1. Number 2 is we are deficient in nutrients because 85% of the farmland has been void of nutrients from these mega farms and all they spray it. And number 3, which is actually number 1, is reducing stress in your life. So that's what we do. We teach people like reduce their stress, get the toxins out of their body, flood the body with nature. And guess what? Your natural body knows what to do, and you can come back to life and you can heal.
Yeah, I especially agree with the last one, the reducing stress. High levels of cortisol have been shown time and time again to be harmful. Cortisol's good. Yes, I said cortisol's good in short instances. Fight or flight.
And you have to use it. You have to actually move your body. You got to fight something or flight and run and burn through that special chemical. But if you don't, it turns into a toxic poison that will undermine your health and your life and probably shave about 7 to 19 years off your life too in the process.
I have seen stress actually destroy people.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a case in point. A lot of my family is doctors. And a lot of people would sit here and think, doctors are the healthiest people in the world. I can tell you all the doctors in my families are all the ones who've had heart attacks.
Yeah.
And the number
they have higher
one
rates
reason,
of suicide too.
Stress. They are patient work. 15-hour days, no sleep, get back into it, work straight. And it's taxing on the body. And you watch it just destroy them. It's like the ones that try to sit there and help us heal are always the ones that end up getting hurt because they get caught up in this realm. Like we were just talking to one of my trainers today about this. with physical therapists when she was asking, she's like, I wanted to be a physical therapist. Did you? But I was like, I thought about it, but I saw the stress they went through. 15 minutes of the patient to try to squeeze in to make a living because the insurance companies aren't paying you. And then you really can't help people all the way because the insurance company is telling you you can only work on one part of the body. You can't continue the whole of it. And
Yeah.
it's like, are you really helping people? And are you doing more damage to yourself while you're trying to help people? And she's like, I thought the same thing. That's why I didn't do it. Blows your mind when you start looking at it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you fell down. You're an elderly woman. You fell down. You broke your kneecap. They didn't X-ray you in the hospital, and you walked around in that in the emergency room. So you walked around in that for 3 weeks. Then you go back and they X-ray. Oh, we need to put a brace on. And well, my back hurts and my neck hurts. Well, the physical therapist can't help you with that. We need to get another referral. You got to come in and see a back doctor, and then you got to go see a neck doctor. We have to get 3 referrals so that the physical therapist can actually work on the entire body, because they've compartmentalized the body and they've forgotten that the foot bone's connected to the leg bone, and there's this thing called the system. Your body is an engineering system, and it's just it's ridiculous is what it really is. And you're right, the people in the medical profession are good people, most of them, just like most professions, good, hard, decent, working class people, but they are in a broken system, and that system needs a systems overhaul now because our children are dying younger than us.
I couldn't agree more. We need change in that, and we need change of everything across the board. You said something really relevant that kind of resonated with me. Over processing foods leads to less nutritious, less nutrients in something. You sit there and you take something and you break it up. You cook with it. Cooking's a process. So you're processing that food. You're
Yep.
destroying the fibers in it. You're breaking down the vitamins and the prebiotics and the probiotics, and it's killing all of that. I'm not going to say don't cook food, but have an understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, you
Putting
better be eating
something
some living foods. People don't realize that we are the only creatures on this planet that cook their food, and we have all the disease.
to an extent. Yeah.
Well, there are some other creatures that have disease. The pets, the animals we've domesticated, and same ones, the animals in the zoos. All human intervention.
Yeah. There's a lot more to it that we have to kind of take a look inside and really help ourselves and fix the underlying issue, which is something you mentioned of our lifespan is going the wrong direction.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it should scare you. And everything in this world should scare you.
Well,
And
the
you should
cool, the
start
cool, the
realizing
cool
you can work
thing,
on your own.
the cool thing is that it starts with us. Like I was talking about earlier, taking responsibility. Here's how you vote today. You vote with your dollars. You stop buying this poison crap and killing yourself and racking up your medical bills, and buy healthy foods. And I talked to somebody today, and if you have the belief system that eating healthy is more expensive, then you don't know what you really know. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's just conditioning, because I can buy a 50-pound bag of lentils for nothing, cheap. I can grow a tray of sprouts, of sunflower sprouts. I can grow 2.5 pounds of sunflower sprouts for $1. And that is like medicine. It's the most nutritious food on the planet. One handful of sunflower sprouts is equivalent to 30 handfuls of fresh cut kale out of the best organic, chemical free, non toxic garden with the most rich, dense soil you could possibly get. Think about that. Do you want to eat 30 handfuls of kale? I don't. I like kale from time to time, once or twice, you know, here and there, if I make a salad with it. But I can eat one handful of sunflower sprouts and get the nutrition of 30 handfuls of kale, or 30 handfuls of mustard greens, or 30 handfuls of sweet potato greens, the most nutritious vegetables on the planet. That's where it's at. Living foods. And people can start incorporating these things into having their salads, and it's fresh, it's delicious. Herbs, basil, mint, rosemary, all these things. A lot of people grow these things in their countertop on their windowsill. If you're living in an apartment, you can still do this. And there's other sprouts you can grow, like lentils, mung bean, fenugreek. You don't even need soil for those. You can grow those in glass jars on your countertop in your home, and they'll be ready in 2.5 days to eat. And there's no excuse. We have the medicine. The medicine is the living foods, and basically fasting, which you probably have to have me back on if we wanted to talk about water fasting, but there is nothing more powerful than doing nothing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Tim, I just want to wrap this up. So I'm going to ask you the final two questions I ask everybody. The first question is, if you were to summarize this episode in 1 or 2 sentences, what would be your take-home message?
The sum up, 2-sentence sum up. Okay. So I would sum this up as put yourself as a priority. Start loving yourself enough to make some change in your life. And whether you radically shift now and get going or you take baby steps, do one or the other. Start moving.
I love it. You can even simplify that. Start moving. Beautiful.
Yeah. Move. Take
Move.
action. It's simple physics. I mean, what you put out is what you get back.
It's
If you don't
very
have
true.
what you want, change what you're putting out.
Very true. And then the second question, how can people find you, get a hold of you? Give us all the good stuff.
Easy peasy. Our website is chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. I lead an inner circle coaching call every Wednesday. I'm doing that tonight. I have a lot of free information on my show. It's called the Health Hero Show. It's on all the major platforms. It's soon going to be changed to the Tim James Show. We have doctor formulated detox and nutrition products that they're awesome. I mean, lately I've just been saying what it is. I've been like, we have some of the best stuff. Dr. Scott Treadway, former Marine, he actually left medical school, walked away from that, went to India and became a master herbalist in Indian herbology, Chinese herbology. Our stuff is based on 10,000 years of biological engineering system science. And I've Dr. Keith Moeller. He's helped us with our nano silver products. I've curated some of the best stuff for me over the last 13 years and just made it available for other. Originally, it was just like small batches for my coaching students, but it just kind of got a life of its own and it became the major part of my business. And we ship worldwide all over the place. And we have double your money back guarantee on all of our products because I just want you to try them because I know they're going to work for 98% of you up the middle. And if you do, they're going to change your life like they have mine. I'm 50 and I run around with my 21 and 24-year-old sons and, good quality water, good sleep, hanging out with people that love me, and taking high quality nutritional. They're basically food based products, and detox products have kept me pretty. I'm healthier, and I'm 50, and I feel like I'm 20. So if you want that, that's what we offer for people that are ready to change.
I love it, Tim. Thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.